Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World right here with Jeff Jarrett. Of course, he is the greatest professional wrestler of all time, and he removed all doubt this past Sunday night in Wembley. I do say so myself. It sounded like behind Bryan Danielson's win, our pal Double J may have had the biggest pop of the night. He was over like Rover in Wales. He was over in London, and now he's headed back stateside. Dynamite coming right on time tomorrow night. Of course, as you may imagine, recording the day is, well, challenging. He's on his way back from the UK and then turning right around and getting out of town for Dynamite. So be sure to catch Jeff tonight on AEW on TBS. And I, for one, am curious, what's next for the King of the Mountain, for the Last Outlaw? Is he doing something with Hangman Adam Page? Is there more to this story? Can't wait to see what's next. I'm hopeful that he's got a big time match in Chicago, but regardless, we're going to have a big episode for you next week. And today we're doing something kind of fun. We're catching up and talking about SummerSlam 1999. It's hard to believe that show went down like 25 years ago. The WWF was on fire, and this show's from the Target Center in Minneapolis. And in it, we would see the governor, Jesse Ventura. Isn't that a crazy sentence, even in hindsight? So we're going to talk about that, of course. We'll talk about Jeff's match against D'Lo Brown for the Intercontinental and the European Championship. Plus, we're going to talk about the time Jeff Jarrett worked with Ben Stiller. Yeah, that Ben Stiller. We'll also touch on Gangrel, the WWF going public, and Mark Henry turning on D'Lo, and so much more. If you're a fan of My World, you're going to love this episode, talking about maybe the wrestling business at its peak WWF at that time for sure. August of 1999 is our subject today as we're talking SummerSlam 99. We'll be back next week. And by the way, if you haven't already, do yourself a favor, cruise on over to myworldpod.com. That's myworldpod.com. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell, because I'm going to twist old Double J's arm, and we're going to go live later this week and talk about that Wembley experience. I can't wait to hear what it was like to wrestle in front of 53,000 people and get such a hero's welcome. This career resurgence for Double J caught him by surprise, and boy, I'm loving every minute of it. Getting to do this podcast with Jeff has been a real highlight for me in my wrestling venture, and I think I've heard it a lot. He's changed my mind and a lot of other people's mind. And boy, I sure am proud of Jeff Jarrett and pulling for him. Can't wait to see what's next. Let's talk about what life was like 25 years ago as we revisit SummerSlam 1999. But in the meantime, don't miss your chance to hear Double J talk about Wembley at myworldpod.com. That's myworldpod.com. And we're going to sit down long form next week right here on My World. But to hold you over, here we go. SummerSlam 99. Does that feel like 25 years ago? Damn, I'm getting old. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we couldn't do it without your friend and mine, WWE Hall of Famer. Here he is, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Conrad, I'm ready to just jump on you right off the bat. You could do it without me.
I do 6 other times a week, actually.
Exactly. You could definitely, and you could do My World. You know my story better than I know it. But how you doing today?
Man, I'm pumped. I'm excited to be here. We had such a great time talking about SummerSlam 1998. Ooh. And of course, this past weekend, we had SummerSlam in Las Vegas. CM Punk is back in the wrestling world. Lots of moving parts in wrestling. But we'll talk about that some other time. Today, we're here to talk about SummerSlam 1999. And Jeff, you watched this show for the first time in a long time. And before we clicked record, you said, man, I kind of forgot about these crowds. Chat me up. What was your impression watching SummerSlam 99 back this week?
Where do I start? You know, one thing that popped in my brain was it's been a long time since I've done this with me having the Fight app, our friends at Fight, and my good buddy YouTube. The ability, and I get sent stuff all the time. Hey, this and that, and this clip and that clip, and not just an Instagram or a Twitter bite, a YouTube link. So I watch an awful lot of online content. Also Raw, SmackDown, AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan, all the content that's out there. But so it's been a minute since I have watched something from the archives. And when our friends at Peacock, and man, I just want to take this time right now to thank you for introducing me to this technology. No, I have not. I'll be honest. I have not surfed on Peacock. I knew the WWE network very well, but I didn't know. I mean, everything, what has it migrated over? Maybe that's another conversation, but yeah, to watch it and watch the open of it. And one thing that jumped off the page was all the signs. Everybody, I mean, it was a sea of signs, all kinds of stuff. Obviously, the McMahon, Austin, and I hate to even call that a storyline because, yes, it's a storyline, but it was in so many ways that was the Attitude Era. There was a lot of support and a lot of underneath, and you name it. Val Venus, Godfather, DX, Undertaker, the Ascension, all those kind of things went around it. But, you know, the common man, the working man, the employee versus the employer, that was such a simplistic storyline. Vince, I still don't think he really has any peers when his A game is on as being a heel, and Austin, the perfect baby face, just that storyline. But man, the business was red hot, and me getting to open 99, SummerSlam 99, when my music hit, and you know, I'll say the package, the act of everything that went with it was over, and everything that surrounded it, but everything was over on that show. I mean, in the opening minute, you saw, God, I mean, just the highlight reel and Shane and Mick, and just there was so much going on. But yeah, it was fun to reminisce just for a minute to see the crowds and Jesse the Body in his home state. We're going to get into all that. Ben Stiller to the lead up. I remember that fondly. And this was sort of setting the table, if you will, for the ultimately where we went with the China storyline. So all the pieces were being put in place here.
I love that you just said the Ascension were circling around. I'm pretty sure they were like 7 years old.
Not the Ascension, the Undertaker Ascension.
The Acolytes. That's what you meant, I think.
No, I was talking about, didn't they? I'm calling the storyline where he wasn't resurrected. He ascended up into the, what do you call that storyline when Taker and they put Stephanie right on the, whatever that storyline was?
The Ministry of Darkness.
There you go. Thank you, sir. Guy. See, I'm not you damn wrestling nerd. I don't remember it.
It just tickles me. First of all, shout out to Matthew over there at Botchamania, who you got to hang out with at our very first Starcast in Chicago. Gosh, 3 years ago.
Hilarious.
And he could not help but take you to task for just now realizing, wait, the WCW pay-per-views are on Peacock?
Did he say that? Did he put it on?
Oh yeah, he tweeted it. I'll send you the tweet. It's hilarious, and
I love it.
He plays some clips from our podcast, you know, with our permission, of course, and we bless him to do whatever. Please make fun of us, and
yes,
there's plenty to make fun of over at Botchamania. So if you haven't already, check out Botchamania. Like, how could you be listening to this and not know about Botchamania?
So let me tell you another little story about me botching everything.
Yes.
So I've been recently up at the high school where my daughter goes, and on the podcast, I referred to Dixie's father, Bob Carter, as Bob Cotter, Cotter.
Oh,
Bob Cotter is the principal at my daughter's high school, and Jaren's basketball coach called me to task on that. She's like, "Yeah, you made Bob Carter famous." I'm like, "No, he's already famous." So anyway, I just mess it up left and right.
And that's why we love you. You know, at least you're honest about it and you don't dig your heels in and just, hey, by the way, before we get going, did you know that Eric Bischoff once threw hot coffee at Eddie Guerrero?
No, let me hear that.
Oh, it's well documented. Check it out. Hot coffee right at him. How about that?
Can you give me a little context? Why? Was it at an event? Was it at a breakfast spot? Where was this?
It was backstage at Nitro. Eddie was upset about something and expressing his frustration. And as the rumor and innuendo go, Eric threw his cup of hot coffee at Eddie Guerrero. Now, in reality, everyone agreed. I think Eddie even wrote about it in his book that he really just slammed the coffee down and some splashed out near Eddie, but it's not like he just, tossed it. But anytime you want to get Eric fired up, just be like, so, hey, I was talking to Conrad. He said you threw hot coffee at Eddie Guerrero, and he will just flip out.
I love it. Okay. I got it.
Gag. Yeah.
Yes. I wish I'd have known that when me and Eric had lunch the other day here in Nashville.
Oh gosh. I got to start putting little bugs in the ear because he can get triggered in a hurry.
Oh boy.
And I've got a handful of them that I just know I can press in case of emergency. And he'll just stop what he's doing. What'd you say? And just fucking fly off. And it's tremendous.
Speaking of Eddie Guerrero, I remember the time him and the dog-faced gremlin had a nice, quiet conversation at a post-show Hooters one time. Eddie, his personality, outgoing and loud and boisterous at times. I don't say the life of the party because that sounds like it's just, but infectious, shall we say. So I can just picture the scene that Eddie voicing his opinion and Eric under all kinds of stress. I could just see that. Can you not see that picture going down and our buddy EB slamming coffee down?
I can totally see it.
And also him actually throwing it on him because that's what happened, right?
That's 100% what happened. And I'm glad that you agree and you've backed me up. You were probably at that Nitro.
I actually think there's a security cam footage. We'll have to dig it up, but
and if we find it, we'll post it to adfreeshows.com. You and I are such full of shit. I mean, this is fun. Let's talk about SummerSlam.
Go ahead.
SummerSlam 99. It's why we're here. By the way, stay tuned. We're going to preview next week's episode at the end of the show. And whew, Jeff has been telling me, I can't wait to talk about that one. But let's talk about SummerSlam 99. We touched on this a little bit in your Holding Up Vince episode. Of course, you did it with a pea shooter. That's been well established. Check that out in the archives. But today we're going to discuss all things SummerSlam. So we're marching through the summer of 1999. At Fully Loaded, which was the July pay-per-view, you defeat Edge for the Intercontinental title for your record-setting, at the time, 5th title reign. Did you realize when you won the title back from Edge that this was a record that you had won it 5 times, or did somebody tell you that and you look at them like you looked at me a minute ago and said, you big old wrestling nerd?
No, didn't have a clue. I will say this, reflecting through my world journey that we're going on, I can remember, going from, I don't know how you exactly classified this, but going from the assistant general manager to the general manager, and maybe I can work my way up to a VP or, that level. But I always had success with the IC title. I don't remember it being a record, but me and Edge in Toronto that night, and then Fully Loaded, and no, didn't realize it was a record. But I always felt I could produce in that spot, and did produce in that spot. But nope, can't say that I said, I set a record. No.
Does somebody in the back tell you that? Is there, because we hear about that in football all the time, that a guy will break a rushing record or something like that, but he wouldn't have known until right before he did it, or maybe right after he did it. Was there somebody who kept up with that sort of thing in the back? And when you come through the curtain or you're getting dressed or whatever, they're like, hey, did you realize?
That was, and it's like stats, my sporting days, I was, you don't want to keep up with how many points you scored in basketball, just go out and play the game, all that kind of stuff. So stats was something that, and there are different guys in the industry that write down every match they were in and where they were at and the house and all that. I was never a stat guy like that. And also when I went back in, 2019, for Royal Rumble, they posted, I think social media and the digital, age that we're in has really brought stats to the forefront, that you just input it into the computer and you can go to it with the click of the button. You're not doing it on a yellow legal pad or, the computer age, and making it so readily available. Cause I think I wrestled in 2019 and it was some kind of record. I'm like, who keeps up with this? Almost 20 years in between in-ring appearances. But, so no, I wasn't a stat guy. Finkel might have been someone who would have kept up with it. If I would have to ask in 1999, hey, who will know stats? I would have gone to Fink. But to my knowledge, I don't know of anybody that kept a running tab of stats. Nope, Don't know.
Let's talk about something that's going to happen on the way here. It's a pretty memorable moment. The night after you win the Intercontinental title at Fully Loaded, we're doing Raw at the Gund Arena in Cleveland, Ohio. Anything ever happened there?
Can you think about good old Cleveland has been certainly good to me. And I just found out all the name changes, and Quicken is now Rocket. And that's a whole nother conversation, but Gund Arena is what we called it back in the day. Yeah. That's the night that you called it a pea shooter. I don't remember it being a pea shooter. Yeah, lots have happened. Lots of things happened in that arena through the years, and what a great market.
I mean, it wasn't just that. Isn't that where you held up Vince too?
I thought that's what I just alluded to.
Oh, okay. So you hold up Vince there and you're fired. I mean, I think that's where.
Oh, in WCW, you're right.
Yes. Yeah. So
Vince fired me there.
Isn't that interesting? I wonder if that was in Vince's mind. Like, do you think when he walked into that building, he was like, because I never put that together until just now. God damn, this is where that son of a bitch held me up for money. I'm going to fire him.
No, not at all. There's been a couple of things in there. The Hardys and Edge and Christian had their ladder match on that same 1999 pay-per-view. And they talked about there's a spot in Gund Arena they remember. I saw an Instagram post from Edge. So
I remember that.
Yeah. So no, I don't think Vince thought about it because look, I've said it again. I've said it before. I'll say it over and over and over. Vince gave me that check and with a smile on his face.
No, it's been well documented. You held him at gunpoint, and this was right after or right around the time that Eric Bischoff was throwing coffee. It's like you're not even
right. You're right. Maybe the same night. So where did Eric toss the pot of coffee? Was it a pot or a canister? What was it?
I think it was a whole pot of coffee over his head.
Oh my God.
It was humiliating. It was like, you can't do that on television, the Spanish version.
Oh man. That's just wrong.
I agree.
Eric, we forgive you.
Did you know he once told, Chris Jericho that he had to sign the contract extension, his new contract, or he wasn't going to continue his championship title run. And the way he communicated that was no ticky, no laundry.
Wow. You have got the large size, extra large paddle out today. You are stirring.
That's real. He once told Chris Jericho, no ticky, no laundry.
What is no ticky?
Well, it's, I believe he was mocking like a Chinese dry cleaner where if you don't have the ticket from where you drop these clothes off, I can't give you the laundry bag. The idea being I can't continue this push if you don't give me the contract.
I got you.
And I think he communicated that in a professional sense at a live show on television behind the scenes. Chris, we just got to have you sign that contract. You know, no ticky, no laundry. And then he made him lose the belt and wrestle down a dress. Yeah.
I can't wait till we get back to doing live shows and we can address all of this.
Eric. Yeah.
Do a big super show.
I'm for it.
Hold 83 weeks. Just hammer it out.
So July 26th, 1999. It's the Gund Arena in Cleveland, Ohio. $16,340. You're not quitting or getting fired here. In fact, you're the new Intercontinental champion.
$16,000. That was people, not dollars.
Yeah. $16,340, folks, for $404,159. I was trying to get to the dollars and got ahead of myself. Either way, one of the best all-time segments in Raw is War history. You know what? Rather than us just describe it, let's track it. Let's play it a little bit here. Here we go. And this is going to be from that night right after.
Two puppies! Yahoo! Oh, there they are. You're so easily amused. What are you talking about?
You got your short haircut like you like it. You got your Don't Piss Me Off shirt holding Deborah's hand as y'all walk down, and you got the IC strap around your waist. JR and the King doing some commentary as you make your way into the ring, and you're going to handle a little business with a celebrity in the crowd. Let's take a listen. Oh, wait, they got commercials. Fram didn't pay to be on here. We can't.
Hey, But the narrative with JR and his inflection, he's not calling a match. I mean, this is an entrance, but the give and take between JR and King, to me, this is one of the things, but it's right up there at the top. Their personalities fit the Attitude Era. God almighty, they were good, man.
So long.
They got the story over.
You, JR. There are no puppies in your future tonight, because tonight is about the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time.
I hate
Puppy party pooper. Right. Ben Stiller.
Hi, baby.
I heard Ben Stiller was here. Ben, come on up here. Security, let him go. No, let him go. Come on, Ben. I want you to be my personal guest. The big Hollywood movie star.
He
Come
loved
on
the
up
puppies.
here, Ben.
He loved the puppies.
That's right.
Asking for some
I
hair
know you're
gel.
a puppy lover. I know you're a puppy lover. Oh, on this side. On this side. I know you're a puppy lover.
Whoa. Very gallant.
Ben, the puppies are in the doghouse tonight. My doghouse.
He's trying to smooch the pooch.
You know, I know your new movie's coming out, Mystery Men, but what brings you to Cleveland? Perhaps the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time?
Perhaps. Well, I just wanted to see I wanted to come to Cleveland and see some world-class wrestling, some WWF wrestling. Yeah. And, I've been on the road promoting Mystery Men opening August 6th. So it was a good break, and it's been a great night. And you kicked Edge's ass last night. All right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, good for you, man.
But now, Ben,
You're great, man.
Ben, I've been meaning to talk to you about this movie. Why didn't you cast me? I am the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time.
Well, of course you are, Jeff. Of course you are. You know, there are a lot of superheroes in the movie. There's my character, Mr. Furious.
All right.
Yeah. There's the bowler that Janine Garofalo plays.
Yeah.
Pee Wee Herman is in the movie. He plays. Did you see Pee Wee back in the theaters?
Yep.
He plays the spleen, a character that blows gas out his ass. That's his power. And we thought there just wasn't a superhero who had enough power that you could play because you're the best. And there just wasn't a guy who was powerful enough because you're so powerful and you're the best, Jeff.
Ben, one more favor before you go, because I got to finish up this interview. I know the answer, but I want you to tell everybody in here, who is your favorite WWF superstar?
And why
That's
is Jeff?
easy.
Jeff, that's easy. There are two of them.
The puppies!
Oh, yeah! He's a man after my own heart.
Jarrett thought it was going to be him.
Oh, wait a minute.
Hey, look at what in the world? Jarrett, come on. Now that's a little bit overreacting here, Jarrett. And Deborah don't like it either. And now Jarrett taking exception to Deborah.
Whoa. What's he doing?
Deborah does not like this, and why should anybody? It's somewhat distasteful, quite frankly.
Oh, no. You know what? I think.
What is Jarrett doing?
It's the figure four.
Oh, come on.
Ben Stiller.
This is not. Somebody stop this. Jeff Jarrett has a figure four leg lock on Ben Stiller, and that ain't no mystery, man. And then D'Lo Brown. D'Lo, the European champion. D'Lo Brown now. And fire.
Look at Ben Stiller's getting consoled by the puppies.
Oh, D'Lo up on top. Yeah. That'll take care of Jeff Jarrett. And Ben Stiller may be nursed back to health by Deborah. It's a pretty cool little segment. That's how you use a celebrity involvement right there, is it not?
Oh, the Peacock. That was season 7, episode 30. For anybody out there who wants to look that up, the ad-free team did a wonderful job in preparing me and Conrad for this episode. But, just hearing that back and watching that back, I mean, Mystery Man definitely got promoted in a unique fashion. The storyline got over. I got a lot of heat out of it. I got praised by Dave Meltzer. D'Lo got over. But I've always said this, all kidding aside, a good segment or a good match is when everybody gets over. And everybody won that. And when you hear, and if you're just listening to audio, you can hear Lawler at the top, and he's narrating and talking puppies and encouraging Ben Stiller's over the top, who's putting me over, and I'm grinning like a Cheshire cat. But when the action starts and the heat sets in, then JR took over and dastardly, but he narrated it. Jeff's a piece of garbage. Deborah's mad at this. Ben Stiller, he's not a wrestler. What's he doing the figure four? And then he's getting consoled by the puppies. And Mystery Man in theaters, and Ben was great. He was a lot of fun to work with that night. Awesome. That's why he's made a living at what he does. He knows what to do. But the camera shots in that story were well. That they when Ben gave us that outline and then the reaction on my face. Good segment. A lot of fun.
Really good segment. I think it's one of the best uses of a celebrity. And obviously Ben Stiller was a big celebrity back then and still is today. But I loved Jim Ross. It's a little thing, but when you first started attacking him, I couldn't help but feel like JR was channeling his inner Lance Russell. Oh, come on, Jeff. I mean, it was so spot on when you're laying the wood to him. It was really, really well done.
It's good. I didn't think of it that way, but you're exactly right. You are well said, my friend. Well
Old
said.
School Memphis, baby. Was there any discussion?
Dave Meltzer liked it.
Oh yeah, everybody liked it. And how about this? Ben sold that figure four better than most of the guys you actually put it on for real.
Kidding. You ain't kidding.
I mean, he really did. And what was fun is when you're trying to turn him over, he was not cooperating with you. He's fighting it. And it's like, wait a minute, this guy's 5 foot nothing, 100 nothing. And Jeff's having to work his ass off just to turn him over. But then once he did, he realized, oh, okay, now's the time. Figure four's on, no problem, and good to go.
Hold on. Gonna give away a little of the magic sauce. That was by design, Connie.
It was good stuff.
It was good. Yeah. He was fighting for the ropes. He was wanting to get out of there. He was scared for his life that figure four was coming. And once I got it cinched in, it was over. Good segment though. A lot of fun. And this is again, setting the table for the October China, where all of that was, as we get into SummerSlam, the reaction that I get just sending Deborah to the back, that was the package. That was the that was the mindset from Vince and creative.
Hey guys, if you haven't already, why haven't you tried Blue Chew? It's a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Cialis and Viagra and Levitra, but all in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. And it's super easy to get started. You sign up at bluechew.com, you consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you get your prescription within a few days. And the best part is it's all online. So you don't have to go to the doctor's office. It's no awkward or uncomfortable conversations. You don't even have to wait in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made right here in America, and they prepare and ship directly to your door, all in a discreet package. And let me be clear, Blue Chew's not just for guys who have a problem. It's for guys who want to hit a few extra strokes, if you know what I mean. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. So discover your options at bluechew.com. Let's chew it and do it. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code MyWorld at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com. The promo code is MyWorld, and you receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. It was pretty crazy too, to think about, just how your characters were positioned at the time. Deborah is this lady wearing business suits and, got them things out. And she really wants to show them off, but you just won't let her. And so that's enough for us to hate you.
And I had a lot of heat. They hated me for that.
But think about that in context. Like, we're on USA or Spike or wherever we are. Did you think you were going to see them Browns? No. You're never gonna. That's not the way this works. And there's a lot of smart wrestling fans who knew, wait, she's with Steve Austin. That's never going to happen for sure. But we're still going to chant and we're still going to yell for it. And we still hate Jeff Jarrett for it. It's fun. We know, but we don't want to know. And so we pretend we don't know. And wrestling's fun, man.
Well, I mean, you think about the whole storyline. If there's one person in the world in Steve Austin, 1997, 98, 99. If there's one person in the world that Steve is going to get along with, and yes sir, no sir, and I'm just painting a picture here, but I'm just saying the one person is the guy who's paying him all these money for these t-shirts, his boss. But we don't want to look at it that way. Wrestling fans don't want to look at it. It was take this job and shove it, and Vince, you ain't doing this. I love this industry. The psychology and Shakespeare to the masses and getting engaged and getting involved. And, you know, at the Target Center, when we play that clip coming up and talk about it, you know, 15, 16,000 fans, or Gun Arena had 14, 15, 16,000 fans. People invested their time, sat down, drew up signs, rock, whatever it may be, and came out and had a good time. That's professional wrestling.
How was Ben to work with overall? Compare him to, say, other celebrities you've worked with.
Oh, wow. I'd have to put him right up there at the top, being that he, you know, we got together in the back and went over all that, the figure four, and hey, don't let me just flip you. Don't be a dead fish. That's the words I used. He was, I hate to say a quick study, because he's an actor. I mean, he may not be a stuntman, but he knew, and complete transparency. You know, look, you'll probably really learn to know this as more episodes. I'm not a huge movie watcher. I've watched my fair share, but not in and out. So Ben Stiller and Mystery Man, I didn't have any point of reference on that, but you know, we laid it out. And so Ben backstage, when we went through the segment, creative and going over it, he knew how he wanted to position that whole, Jeff, you're too big a star. You're too big a star to superhero. But he got in, you know, all the Pee Wee Herman. I love Lawler's little pot shot in there with that, but all the different stars. And Ben knew how to sell that movie, which made our job easier. That, yes, it was a promo to sell Mystery Man, but it was entertaining. So I think a viewer doesn't mind as bad when you have a celebrity coming in from the outside, if you're going to get in there and make a real concerted effort to become involved in the content, as opposed to coming in and swooping in and, hey, my movie's coming out this Tuesday, go watch it, bye. Ben didn't do that. Ben went all in and took the figure four and also got his movie over.
Yes, he did. Did you ever see Mystery Men?
I did not.
Did you? Me neither. So it didn't work that well.
We're two of
Hey, it got the movie over. Did you see it? Nope, me neither. Okay, well, maybe not.
But I'm very self-professed. I'm not the biggest movie watcher.
What about D'Lo Brown? Were you excited to be working with D'Lo? How do you find out you're going to be working with D'Lo? Do you know before you win the IC at Fully Loaded that, hey, Jeff, here's what we're thinking? And who would have been the person to communicate to communicate those plans with you?
So we're running point on a creative, and obviously Vince and agents. And so I don't remember specifically who told me, but man, me and D'Lo, we had good chemistry. At times, really, really good chemistry. When I watched back the SummerSlam match, it was just, we gelled well together. So I don't remember who exactly told me, but I was excited. I knew we were going to head in some kind of direction, and I can't remember what storyline D'Lo was coming out of, but and if you really look back through that era, other than the tippy top storyline, Austin and Mick and Rock, everything else was, I don't say rotated on a monthly basis, but every 2 months or so, 3 at the longest. It rotated pretty quick.
Yeah. D'Lo Brown, by the way, the prior month, Fully Loaded, I guess I shouldn't say the prior month, the prior night, he would beat Midian for the European Championship. So he became the European champ the night before, and you became the IC champ the night before. And for what it's worth, Big Boss Man became the hardcore champ the night before, and the Acolytes became the tag champs the night before. So
it fully loaded.
Lots of new champs coming out of that pay-per-view.
It fully loaded to set up SummerSlam. Gotcha.
So D'Lo's the European champion, and the next night we're going to tape Raw in Columbus, Ohio. It's crazy to think how hot the business is, but we're still taping Raw. And this is before the company is publicly traded and all that jazz. We know it's not too far away, but we're not quite there yet.
And SmackDown hasn't launched. And so why did we tape Raw on a Tuesday? Wonder why we didn't go live.
Well, that's the thing. You were doing a live and then a tape. I mean, you were still doing it. It's a holdover from a cost cutting measure you had years before, but it's no longer necessary.
Oh, wow. So it was still going in that route. Okay. I didn't know if like Westminster Dog Show, but that isn't that time of year. So, okay.
So let me add some context here. You won the Intercontinental Championship at Fully Loaded. And then of course the next day have that interaction with Ben Stiller we were just talking about, but the next day, so 2 days technically after you win the Intercontinental title, it'll air 8 days later. You lose that Intercontinental title to D'Lo Brown. Of course, Deborah is going to attempt to distract D'Lo by stripping. That doesn't work. And you drop the Intercontinental Championship. And I guess, hey man, if you're going to win this belt more than anybody, that means you unfortunately have to lose it more than anybody. Did you think perhaps this was too much hot potato with the Intercontinental Championship?
No, I can't say that I've always had this philosophy, and I think it ebbs and flows, but switching titles for the sake of switching titles is no good. But I also think on the yin and yang of that is keeping a title on someone just to say, oh, we can't hot potato it. I think that can be equally as a damage. So I've always had the mindset, switching titles, changing titles are really on a case-by-case basis. I don't necessarily like to use the term in a believable manner, but I think in the right situations, and again, the 6 Ps I think is so accurate, not just in the wrestling industry, but in life. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. What are you chuckling for?
I love that. I hadn't heard that before.
You've never heard 6 Ps?
No.
What, in Alabama, you don't have internet? No, like you gave me a hard time.
No, like that is on the internet. That is old school country right there. That's shade tree stuff. That ain't internet stuff.
6 Ps.
Yeah.
Proper planning. But I do believe that in our industry, having a plan in place, and you're going to have injuries, you're going to have substitutions, you're going to have missed flights, you're going to have talent alter things, but a guidepost is absolutely, you got to know where you've been and where you're going, and you're going to have bumps along the road. But like I said, switch titles no good, but the plan in place, the underlying current was always going to be, I'll say always, but there was a running belief that me and China were going to hook up, and she was going to be the first women Intercontinental champion.
You already knew that by this point.
I think there was chatter as I've reflected on this. I know there would get, I don't know exactly when, but me becoming Intercontinental champion, starting that program, the what we just went over with the puppies and just that whole direction, the quarter hours, I'm sure Keller or Powell or Dave or whatever, the quarter hours were good. The package of that was rolling along. So I can't say exactly when, but that was the direction we were headed.
What'd you think of working with D'Lo by and large? I mean, this is a guy who is still a cult favorite, well liked by almost everybody I've ever talked to in the business. And fans still talk about his frog splash and his head bobble and his rap. And for whatever reason, it feels like there was almost like a glass ceiling in the WWE for him. And he's still hanging around doing his thing in wrestling these days behind the scenes. But I am curious, what do you think? Was it just the roster was so loaded at the time? There wasn't an opportunity for a guy like that? Did he not have the right look that Vince was looking for? What kept D'Lo from not being the semi-main, but being the actual top dog in the WWE.
Love old AC Connor. That's, he worked for us at TNA, and he's there now. We go way back, but we always had good chemistry. But you've hit the nail on the head, in my opinion. When you look at the Nation of Domination, and D'Lo and the head shake, he really stood out. Obviously, The Rock was coming into his own. But so you had that era, and I'm going to be probably wrong on dates, but 96, 97, DX was forming, the Berwick was Nation of Domination, lots of moving parts, the Attitude Era, different things, the oddities. There was just so much talent. Mark Henry, a young Mark Henry, was coming onto the scene. So I think more than anything, just so much talent, lots of moving parts. I can't say that he was even given an opportunity. So I don't want to say that D'Lo's verbal skills weren't there. His mannerisms was great. His personality was great, but I can't really say, I remember when D'Lo Brown did that promo. Remember that promo? Well, Rock was the talker out of that group, so he wasn't really given that opportunity to talk. And as we all know, that's what you talk them into the building or talk them out. But that, the in-ring action doesn't necessarily move the needle. It's talking him in, and nowadays it's morphing into the video components and so much video presentation as opposed to old school standing by the ring or Memphis, Tennessee, or Raw in rings back in the day, literally talking them into the building. But D'Lo, phenomenal talent.
Let's talk about what you're doing next on the house show loop. You're working D'Lo, but then you're gonna. I guess we should mention you're doing a lot of loops at the time, and you've talked about how great paying these loops were in this era. Payoffs are at an all-time high for these house show events, or as you call them, live events. But Huntington and Baltimore, you're going to be with D'Lo, and then you beat Gangrel in Providence. And the reason you're working with Gangrel in Providence is because D'Lo has been loaned out by the WWF to the Curtis Comes Home benefit show in Pennsylvania that at the time is benefiting WCW referee Mark Curtis, better known as Brian Hildebrand. Obviously, this is something that both companies agree to come together on, even though we're still in the middle of the Monday Night War and WCW and the WWF don't get along on much. Everybody came together for Brian Hildebrand. Any Brian Hildebrand stories you can share with us?
Oh, wow. I could share a lot. What a wonderful human being that passed way too early. For those that don't know, Conrad, and maybe a new audience here, he passed away. I know cancer, but stomach cancer. Is that accurate, Conrad? I believe. But anyhow, great dude. And I can remember him in WCW. We were in a dressing room or whatever. And I didn't really realize that he was from that Pittsburgh sort of crew. There was he knew Cody and Mick and Shane, and there are others, but then he worked at Smoky Mountain. But I didn't realize until we got into discussions how much he knew about Memphis wrestling, like angle after angle, story after story. Hey, Jeff, remember that time you did this, or remember that time you did that? He really, I don't want to say a fan of Memphis wrestling, but yeah, for lack of a better word, a fan, a viewer. He got the tapes and watched it. Great referee, but man, what a sweetheart of a guy. Loved this industry. Just had, like me and you, Conrad, it's in our blood. We do it for free. We have done it for free. We will do it for free, but there's a passion, and that was Brian. Man, but D'Lo, getting to go and work this show, and it was obviously I wasn't there, but I remember it was a cool deal that both companies allow talent to go and work it. Unfortunately, it was both stomach and bowel cancer. I felt like it was something besides just stomach, and
did a quick little Google search, and Brian Hildebrand ultimately succumbed to both stomach and bowel cancer. Let's talk about Gangrel. You do get an opportunity to work him here in Providence. We haven't spent much time talking about the old vampire warrior, David Heath. Any good stories about working with him you can share?
Oh, Memphis stories, lots. Me and him did some traveling together. To this day, we're buds. Dave and Luna, a fascinating couple. They were the WWE days. Me and Dave's career has crossed paths many, 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 many times. And when you sort of think of the Brood and the Vampire, again, another faction we are alluding to, the Oddities, the Brood, Bariquas, Nation of Domination, DX, lots of talent, lots and lots of talent in the 90s. But Dave, what a bump taking son of a gun, broke in Florida, came up the hard way, the right way, traveled all over, worked all over the world, Japan, Puerto Rico, you name it. But love Dave to this day. Big fan of Dave, big fan, Gangrel. And I love that. Back when that first came out and their entrance, they did it over to the side and come up. I thought that had a lot of legs. And I thought it was good for Edge and Christian to break in that way.
Jesse Ventura is announced as being special guest referee at SummerSlam. He is also the governor of Minnesota, and he's going to be taking part of the main event. You and I have never really talked about Jesse. Have you met Jesse before? What'd you think of Jesse?
Oh gosh. Hate to say, who didn't come through Memphis? Jesse came through Memphis.
Wow. So you met him when you were a kid, right?
Yes. Yeah. But, wow. I'm just trying to think of a Jesse story. Fascinating. I'll never forget. I was in, this is a complete sidebar, but I was at a Red Roof Inn. Yeah. Making the big bucks, but I was at a Red Roof Inn. We could Google this, but I guess we had maybe done a Raw in DFW area, but a Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, whatever it is, we could probably Google this, but that is when I was in the hotel when I saw that he became governor. And I was like, wow. Cause Jesse the Body is, I loved his commentary with Vince, movie star, just a fascinating guy, Navy SEAL. You hear the legendary stories of him breaking off. And I'll tell you this, I'll tell you this a little bit. So in 2018, went to Hall of Fame. And then that summer of 2018, I think I went to the UK a couple of times. One of the trips over there, I walked in to we'll call it a Comic-Con, but Jesse was there. It wasn't just wrestling. It was all kind of movie stars and Carl Weather and they did, and I walked in and Jesse was on stage doing a stage show. And I was with the promoter and I watched the end of that and then we went to the back and they were going to have Jesse sign some stuff. And I was going to do a private signing at the same time. And we were sitting there talking. And then all of a sudden, Jesse, we just started, getting into deep philosophical talk and all kinds of stuff. But then I asked him about Barry Bloom. And, when you think about, I don't think most people think of Barry Bloom when they think of Jesse, but here, I'll never look at Jesse. It's just fascinating because Barry Bloom, when you think about how far Barry goes back, Jesse the Body, and then through the years, Hall and Nash, and that run, and then Mick, and then, you can fast forward all the way up. I think you have to put Barry Bloom right up there in the top, and they sort of talk about the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Barry Bloom may be like up there somewhere, maybe not of the four, but he's the agent of Mount Rushmore because he is the agent of all agents. I put him up there with one of the smartest minds that this industry's ever seen. But Jesse and me had a conversation about Barry, and Jesse is a really fascinating person outside of the wrestling industry. But first time I met him, I was a young kid. I feel like, gosh, that had to have been 80, 81, Memphis. I don't know. We could Google that as well, but early.
I'm curious if you remember. I mean, it's funny that you remember the Jesse Ventura thing and that you were in a Red Roof Inn, because you would have been wrestling at Reunion Arena where you guys filmed Shotgun Saturday Night and Raw is War. It's a Tuesday, so it wouldn't have been the live show. It would have been the taped show. But Dallas is where you woke up after being in front of a sellout crowd, 13,684 fans. You were wrestling draws that day to a no contest with Road Warrior Hawk interfering. And after the match, of course, Hawk got the old doomsday device. Owen Hart was doing commentary. And that's what happened on the show. And then the next morning you wake up and find out, wait a minute, Jesse Ventura is the governor?
So I don't remember who. If we went through those results, I could probably figure out was Road Dogg. If Road Dogg was on that car, because me and him were in the car, because in the rental car, I always returned it.
Road Dogg was there on Goldust. Not Goldust, but on Raw you wrestled Goldust. But on Shotgun Saturday Night or Sunday Night Heat, whatever it was, Road Dogg was on that same show. Tagging
we were traveling together, but I always returned the car. But I remember me and him talking, and I'm like, dude, this guy, this isn't like county commissioner or, mayor of a, small town. He's the governor of Minnesota. I was just fascinated. And I'm like, that is hats off to him, man. Renaissance man. He's a Hollywood actor. He's one of the greatest color commentators. You talk about JR and the King and Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, but Vince and Jesse had a dynamic that was just unique. I remember to this day watching Saturday night's main event before I broke in, those kind of deal, just really, really good. But the body, all those years later, come back, the governor, and he's just think about the storyline that goes into this SummerSlam. He's the official, and they set it up by obviously Vince being a ref and Shane coming in and being a ref, and all the setup is wonderful. It was pop culture to have one of the governors of the United States in a wrestling pay-per-view. Pretty cool. Pop culture, to say the least.
Let's keep going here. You're back on the road with D'Lo at the Meadowlands on July 31st, and then you're down to Doswell, Virginia for a Soul Show and an amusement park. Washington, D.C. with D'Lo on August 6th. That's going to draw 15,356 fans. And man, this is not TV. These are just house shows, and they're unbelievable. To Detroit, and then you do the St. Louis Arena for a live Sunday Night Heat, back when they did those things. Val Venus and D'Lo are going to be going at it for the Intercontinental title, and you wind up as guest commentator. What do you think about that as a storytelling device, where you've got the pay-per-view opponent doing commentary on his opponent and the champion who's wrestling another guy? It allows an opportunity for you to sort of get your heat and tell some stories and do it outside of a wrestling ring. I kind of dig it. What do you think?
I've never been a fan of it, candidly.
Really? Why not?
I think it's, and I know that the wrestlers are, it's what we do. We do promos, but I think there's a real art to play-by-play in color.
Yeah.
And I think you put someone, it's like, I don't ask Jim Ross or Michael Cole, on a weekly basis, hey, come on up here and work this 6-man tag. It's not what they do. And so I've got a lot of respect for the play-by-play and the color commentator getting in a rhythm, telling the stories, telling the protagonist and the antagonist points of view, narrating your audience on basically selling the car, wherever the story needs to go. And when you put someone in there that doesn't do it often or rarely, and you go from dancing to a 3-person dance, I think, look, am I saying that it should never happen? No, but I'm saying more often than not, it misses the mark because there's a real art to it. And I think you can get just as much mileage out of it. That give the match, let the commentators do what they do. And then if you want to have another talent come out and have a handheld on stage and say, what they needs to be said. I just think it misses more than it hits. That's my thought. I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, I like when you get on your soapbox. I mean, we get to learn something, and I appreciate what you're saying, that it does take a skill, but I think it allows us as wrestling fans to become more invested in whether or not we like or hate that guy. Mm-hmm. What I'm more interested in is, are you being produced by Vince? Are you wearing an earpiece for this? Is he screaming in your ear like we've heard so many other horror stories? Or do you just get like a coaching session beforehand before you go out there? Or are you really just, operating without a net?
So and I don't know is this Worcester, Mass?
I think you're in St. Louis.
Okay. All right. One time at Worcester, Mass, Vince was screaming in my ear so loud, I could not hear myself think. And I literally froze and didn't say anything, but I could hear him say, "Are you just going to sit there and say nothing?" I mean, it's not easy. God almighty. But yes, he's in your ear. I don't remember specifically who was there, who wasn't there on this St. Louis show. That's why Worcester was when, that was a rough go of it. And to me, and I don't remember this either, but if somebody's going to sit in that booth, and look at TNA, I didn't mandate much, but if someone was going to sit in, I always was not a big fan of it. But if you're going to, I always made sure Mike Tenay and Don West had the talent. They got them, pulled them aside. They went through their points to not script, but just say, all right, how are you going to bounce this hot potato around? Because you got a 4 or 5 minute match. And as a part of that 4 or 5 minute match, you got to go around the horn 3 times. What are you hitting? And I want the talent to feel comfortable, not so much Mike and Don or the play-by-play in color. I want the talent to say, all right, this is when I'm going to join the dance, and this is what I'm going to lay out. Because nothing worse than announcers talking over the top of each other. It just doesn't work. JR and the King, they knew when one was zigging, the other was zagging. They I don't say they never, but if they did, it felt organic. But I think that, again, there's an art to doing it good.
I misspoke. I said St. Louis. It's at Detroit at the Joe Louis Arena.
Oh, yeah.
August 8th, 13,793 fans. By the way, a lot of people are going to be quoting what you just shared about Vince screaming in your ear. Are you just going to sit there? Because I wouldn't have imagined that you would be, I guess you're wearing headsets. You don't need a special wired device, and he's just right in your ass right away.
Well, and the thing is, look, I've in my early years, I couldn't say crap with a mouthful, but by this point, I felt very comfortable behind a mic and an in-ring and holding my own or whatever it may be. But looking at whether it's Michael Cole or JR, whoever was out there. So I'm having the conversation with them, but then it's foreign to have somebody in your ear, screaming at you, and you want to talk back to them, but say, but what, anyway, again, it's an art.
The interesting note from the Observer comes out on August 16th, 1999, from your boy, Dave Meltzer. He writes, Austin also reportedly refused to work TV matches against either Billy Gunn or Jeff Jarrett, feeling neither were over enough to deserve the rub. Boy, we could talk about this for the rest of the episode. We're going to probably wind up tabling most of the conversation for another episode so we can go in great detail, long form. But of course, they had tried the whole Billy Gunn experiment with him being king of the ring, and maybe we can break them up and do a singles push. And of course, that didn't go exactly according to plan. Rock buried him deeper than anybody's ever been buried before when he did a little prayer to heaven as little Billy. And that was all she wrote. But you had some residual heat maybe, but it is interesting, this dynamic. You're out here holding hands with his real life girlfriend, or maybe at this point wife, and she's your quote unquote heater. And this is going fabulously well. And you've been, as we call it here on the show, assistant general manager, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 times. You're Intercontinental champion, and the world champ doesn't want to work with you. What I'm most interested in talking about, we'll talk about all of that later because it's probably worth a whole episode. How does this make the Observer? Does Austin tell this to JR? Does Austin tell this to Vince Russo? I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how does Terry Taylor know this, and how does he tell Dave Meltzer? It's got to be Terry, right? Who else would it be?
Here we go. Conrad, I think what you're doing is the proverbial softball you're throwing at me, and you're just hoping that I create a soundbite here and say, well, Conrad, it's this simple. What did I tell you? He's a fiction writer. But I'm not going to do that.
I'm not hoping that. I'm hoping you'll just admit that you think this is Terry Taylor too, because it has to be, right?
Well, why do you pin it on Terry?
Who else would it be? Who else would call up Meltzer and say, oh, you want the scoop? Our big star here thinks he's too big of a star to work with these two guys. That would not be JR. Dave's
got 20 years in the business or however long. He's got a lot of, lots and lots and lots of,
stooges,
sources. God, I couldn't come up with that. He's got lots and lots of sources. So, was this a case that the format was put out at noon and changed to 2 and changed to 4, and they're shuffling things around, and well, Austin may work tonight, and if he's going to work, well, no, he's not going to work, but it had nothing to do with Jeff or Billy, or it had everything to do with Jeff or Billy. Look, you got to have some kind of reason why Steve didn't work, I guess. Again, this is Dave's audience that Dave is reporting to, and so whether it's fact or fiction, all kidding aside, it's written. I don't remember the specifics. What did he do on this Raw that made jar some memory? What did he do?
What did he do?
What did he do on this episode of Raw? It says that he didn't work with me and Billy. So what did he do?
Oh, I'm not saying that it was on that particular episode. I was of the opinion that it just meant in the future he wasn't going to.
I got you. Okay. Maybe. Probably accurate. He didn't. But when you're the top baby face, you can dictate a lot of things.
I'm not arguing that at all. He certainly deserves to decide who he wanted to work with. He had earned that right. And I'm not arguing that. I'm just wondering,
how does Dave get it?
How does the information come out?
Yeah. Telephone, telegraph, tell a wrestler.
Tell Terry Taylor. This comes after, let's add some context. This report comes out after Deborah has not made some appearances. So let me add context to that. You guys were always together, even on the house shows, until Austin is banged up and misses some house shows. And when he's off the road, ... so is she. So if he's at home, she's at home, which means you don't have part of your presentation for the house shows. It's not like you could really say shit anyway, but what'd you feel about that?
Who could?
Yeah.
Good. Nobody. Including Vince. He's not going to die on that hill. So his girlfriend or fiance is going to miss a few live events. Okay, move on.
Let's add a little context though. When you read in the Observer, let me back that up. You shit on Dave here every week, and I try to tell you not to. And I
do. That's not. Now you're a fiction writer, dadgummit.
Well, listen, just like we know for sure that Eddie Guerrero had a whole pot of coffee dumped on his head by Eric Bischoff.
Yes.
And you personally put a gun in Vince McMahon's belly to get all the cash.
Belly, maybe shoulder, not belly.
Now we know that you don't like Dave Meltzer. My question is, when you're reading the Observer, well, let me time out there. Were you reading the Observer back then? I know you weren't necessarily a subscriber, but just do guys say, hey, take a look at this, and you read it while you're hitting the next town?
Sure. Through the years, I told the Memphis story, and our buddy Pat Trammell referenced it, that he was the one feeding Dave information way back when in the printed version. But yeah, the Observer always floated around for sure.
Okay, let's
where were you going with that question?
You're going to read in here.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Austin doesn't want to work with you or Billy Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're reading this, you're already dealing with the idea that hey, wait a minute, she's not with me on house shows? Does the combination of those two play into your disgruntlement? And I mean, we know that the JR has been trying to cut your money, and now the top act, who's JR's boy, says he's not going to work with you. And he says it loud and often enough that it's printed in a quote unquote dirt sheet. So now the whole industry knows, or is at least led to believe that. And then, oh, by the way, half of your act on TV, we're not going to give you on house shows either. Is this all compounding with your frustration with the WWF and thinking, man, what if? Is that plausible?
And see, the assumption that you made is that I was frustrated to a higher than normal level. I wasn't, because I was the Intercontinental Champion. I had gone through the Indian Aztec and the Double J reiteration, and from just the coming in promo, things went sideways. I had built myself back up and worked my ass off. Again, always believed in my strengths, my talents. I felt, give me the ball, I'll score. And so, Deborah wasn't working the matches. Was the package, the presentation hot? Yes, but also felt I could get over with Double J and the Roadie, or Double J and Southern Justice, or Double J and X-Pac. I didn't feel it was a must. I have to have this to continue and have success in my career. So I wasn't like really super frustrated. And again, making great money. Although my pay was cut, the downside was cut, I was still making good money. Had the squeaky wheel, and Dustin was a squeaky wheel a couple of times. I was doing a run. X-Pac was a squeaky wheel. I was still making really good money.
I'm just curious, it feels like it has to play into it, but somewhere along the way, some good news comes down the pike because the WWF announces they're going public. Do you remember there being a big meeting where you guys are made aware of this? And are there questions going around about, what opportunity does that allow for the boys? Anything like that?
Well, talking to my financial guys, and I do remember these conversations. I don't remember if there was an exact meeting. I'm sure there was on some level. And I know the word was going around that Vince was going to be doing a lot of traveling. And I can remember having the conversation with my financial investment guy that he was just like, wow, do you realize how big a news that is? Like, Jeff, your employer is about to go public. And he had been with me a long time. He's like, I just didn't think, you didn't think in those days, but Vince did, of, the business being in a position to go public. And not that far removed from 22 regional promotions and, Japan in the early 90s, having all those red hot promotions, and just, you didn't think about the business like it, SmackDown was by this time about to start. So there was so much momentum with both companies. Remember, both companies, and WCW was a subsidiary of a public company. So I thought it was real cool, but I don't remember anything like, the boys are, there was going to be a lot more money, but I don't think I ever thought, well, Vince is going to pay us more because we got paid off how we drew. And I'd never shifted my mindset. Well, you get paid off royalties for video games and action figures. You get pay-per-view payoffs, and you get live event payoffs, and Raw, they pay, but there's a lot of expense that goes into it. So the Raw payoff isn't always great because, just never looked at it in that context.
So you and your family have been in wrestling forever. Were you sort of shocked that this is now going to be a publicly traded company? I mean, are you sitting down and talking about it with your dad? I mean, it's got to be a little mind blowing for a guy like your dad, who's an entrepreneur and made a bunch of money a lot of different ways, but boy, he made a killing in wrestling. And now this feels like, I don't know, the latest great con in wrestling, right?
I don't remember having a conversation with him, but like I said, me and my financial guys having those conversations, and them asking, what's he going to diversify into? This is life changing. You got to answer to Wall Street, but he's going to hold on to all the stocks. So what is really going to change? But just them probably, and I say them, my finance guys, them asking me a lot of questions that I had no answers for. But, I came away from those conversations going, okay, wow, this is a really big deal as amount of what could happen in the future as far as expanding.
It's just fascinating in hindsight, and I can't wait to talk about it one day in long form with Bruce about, what all this changed in the wrestling business. John Boyd, also known as Lord Jonathan Boyd, passes away on August 7th. I bring this up because you were part of his last run in Memphis when he was teaming with Bigfoot. I think they worked against you and Billy Travis. What can you tell our listeners about John Boyd?
So he passed away during this run. Is that this
August 7th? Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Now, this is really going to get granular, but no, it's going to take a hard left. But Jonathan Boyd, I had a snake box match with him, and it basically a snake, a big old boa that he owned, and this is in Memphis, and it's like a casket match. So getting thrown in a casket with a snake, and I'm not the biggest fan of snakes, just nothing that totally freaks me out. But, having a big boa that you don't know in a casket, and you're going to, put your face down in there to work the match and all this, and he's a snake. So, but Jonathan, gosh, I had to have been 20, 21 years old. But I learned a lot from him in Tennessee. And, before I broke in, Luke Williams and Butch Williams, they weren't the bushwhackers, they were the sheep herders. And so Jonathan was a sheep herder. They drew a lot of money here in Tennessee. They're a legendary tag team. And that's one of those talents that, again, they were the sheep herders and had those mannerisms and just, God, Rip Morgan, Jonathan Boyd, they personified heat in so many ways. Big brawls. The Fabs and the sheep herders drew a boatload of money here. But then you see them on WWF at the time, and they're doing the bushwhacker walk and, complete comedy. That was an aha moment for me, but I know I'm getting all over the place and granular. But Jonathan Boyd, he taught me so much on heel promos and the intensity and all that. It's funny that your researchers brought this up, but God rest his soul, sheep herder Jonathan Boyd.
Chris Jericho is going to debut at the next Raw. You worked, according to my research, one match with him in WCW during your time there. Were you excited for Jericho to join the roster, or is this another guy that you would say, oh, what's that going to do to my spot?
I only worked once with him at WCW.
I think so.
Oh, wow. Feel like there's maybe a couple more. No. Chris, hell of a talent. Thought that he really, I don't say broke out, but at WCW, he was a guy that kept getting a little bit more momentum and a little bit more momentum and a little bit more and a little bit more. And could talk and could entertain and had paid his dues, come up through obviously Canada and Mexico and Smoky Mountain and all that. So him arriving, you got to remember he was a welcome addition. I'll say that. I'll definitely say that, a welcome addition.
I want to mention you did only work him once on TV. It was Nitro at Florida State in Tampa on February 17th, 1997. But you guys did, like 7 house show matches. So I guess you had 8 matches with him total.
Yeah, Benoit, Malenko, maybe also the guy that Bischoff threw coffee on. No kidding. Guerrero. In WCW during that time, I want to say it was Chris after me and Chris Jericho had a match. But when we came to the curtain, Benoit came up to me and was very complimentary. I thought me and Chris always worked very well together.
In Chicago at the Rosemont Horizon, there's a vignette where D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry are working out in the woods, and Henry has to go to the bathroom in the woods, and you attack D'Lo and run his head into the tree and hit him with a garbage can What can you tell us about this segment?
So running and gunning and shooting pre-tapes. You know where that was shot at?
I do not.
Literally right across the street from the Allstate Arena.
That's fun.
The Rosemont. Right. I don't know if I know you know the area, but
yeah,
literally right across the street.
You used to go to Gibson's, that steakhouse over there that everybody talks about.
Oh, wow. So in that, yeah, obviously that Greenland over there, but yeah, that's where we shot it, running and gunning. God, when I think about how things are done today and how they were done then, hey, everybody jump in some rental cars and let's run across the street, shoot this pre-tape. Boom, we did it. You don't do that anymore. A lot of fun though.
Deborah doesn't seem too happy with you at this point, and again, you're not happy with her. She's failing to distract the porn star Val Venus in a singles match later on the show, and instead he distracts you and beats you in 1 minute and 23 seconds. Venus leaves with Deborah after the match. Was that supposed to go anywhere? Because it feels like it was just quickly forgotten.
Yeah, no, not to my recollection. No, a quick TV match.
She leaves with the porn star, gets her fill, and then she's back. The next night, you're in Milwaukee at the Bradley Center. 14,178 fans for Sunday Night Heat and Raw is War. You get pinned on this Sunday Night Heat by Meat. With the meat grinder. So you're losing to Sean Stasiak here. Meltzer would write, Meat beat Jarrett, which is different than if Jarrett beat Meat, I guess. With Deborah's distraction backfiring again, Brown was involved in the finish, leaving with Deborah when Jarrett got mad. Any memories of working with Meat here?
Good old Sean.
Do you wish that you had beat Meat, or are you glad that Meat beat you?
I knew you were going to go. I'm going to get so confused about Meat getting beat and me getting beat by Meat. And Sean, look at you laughing. Oh, you are awful. There.
What do we do? What is
going on today?
This is your boy. This is Vince Russo. Vince Russo named him Meat. I'd bet $1.
As in Meathead, the old All in the Family.
Sure.
Meathead. I bet Norman Lear. No, but as the researchers, as this whole thing's laying out, you can just see where it's going, that Deborah misses some house shows. Deborah's going to be no longer as a part of this package. We're going to continue to create the dissension of, Jeff and Deborah, and Jeff used Deborah to win a lot of matches. And then now this is going south. So the split's coming at some point, which had been done in wrestling from Jimmy Hart to Bobby Heenan to however managers, seconds, valets, the split always comes.
It's what a tangled web we weave. It's written here that you're going to start some contract negotiations. Do you remember when those would have started? Would it have happened before SummerSlam, or is it after SummerSlam?
Don't recall an exact time. I remember I wish I would have really wrapped my head around this, but the first offer they came out with, oh boy, I would need to think all this through, but I know I wasn't happy. I'm like, what?
And it was less than you had your prior deal, right?
I think because I got cut between 97 to 98, 98 to 99. I think they wanted to keep me at 98 money. And I'm like, what? And I think their final offer was at 99 or at 97 money, like back up to where I came in at 97, with the business being red hot. It was a low offer and I wasn't happy.
You're back on the road.
I say not happy, super disappointed. I'm like, really, Jim? This is where we're at?
You're back on the road, second from the top in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Columbia, South Carolina. You're going to open up in St. Louis. You're third from the top in Peoria. You're working with D'Lo every single day. And then you've got 6 days off, heading to Winnipeg on the eve of SummerSlam to lose to Val Venus, second from the top. And now we're here. SummerSlam 99, the Target Center. Was there a big security presence there, as far as you recall, for Jesse Ventura being there? Was it like any different than a normal day security wise?
And I do remember his security. I mean, yes, There's, and you, WWE, Vince, we all have always treated guests with the utmost respect, first class, not just private dressing room, escorts, and just professionalism through and through and through. And yeah, Jesse and the governor and, his security detail and all that kind of stuff. So I do remember that.
Jeff Jarrett is going to win the Intercontinental title here and the European title, both from D'Lo Brown in 7 minutes and 28 seconds. Meltzer would say they teased heavily a Jarrett-Deborah breakup, including Jarrett ordering Deborah to leave. Deborah came back with Brown. Jarrett worked on Brown's left shoulder early on, including the old Midnight Express divorce court off the middle ropes. Brown came back with a power bomb, but collapsed rather than make the pin. After Brown missed a somersault splash off the top, Jarrett grabs the guitar. A noticeably slimmed down Mark Henry ran in and took the guitar from Jarrett, but instead turned on Brown and clocked him with it, and Jarrett scored the pin. Deborah, Jarrett, and Henry all left together 2.25 stars. I know you watched this back, discovering that old pay-per-views were indeed on Peacock, and we're glad that you figured that out in time to watch it. What'd you think watching this match back for the first time in a long time?
Let's break this down. Let's get granular, as my as my t-shirt says, 100%. Couple of things before the match even started. So, when it came on the air, like we've already talked about, all the signs were everywhere, and they did the recap, and they did a backstage thing with Jesse the Body. They did another pre-tape with Chris Jericho. But the stories and the bits and the lead up, just all the narrative that was going on, and JR and the King were fired up, and the electricity and the energy. And then when my music hit, that version of Double J's music, the people popped, and it wasn't, they weren't popping, okay, here comes Jeff. It was popping, here comes the package. Because the momentum had really, we had a lot of traction. But as I watched it, it probably took, I don't know, not too long, but 2.5, 3 minutes, Conrad. But I sent Deborah to the back. And when I sent her to the back, the asshole chants ringing throughout the arena over and over and over. And we, I hadn't even thrown a punch, nothing. So the story was there that, and JR and King, JR taking the position. I can't believe he would berate her that way. And the King's mad. Even the King, who's the heel commentator, even he was mad at me because I sent some puppies to the back, and the arena was mad. So the setup was really good. And then here you come see Deborah coming out with D'Lo, the baby face, and, just the little bitty nuances that D'Lo welcomed Deborah up into the ring and showcased her around. And just before Deborah was about to take off her jacket, I jump-started the match to again, deny the people of getting to see, the puppies. So
like that was ever a thing. It's still just fascinating to me. Like the internet was a thing. Just Google boob and get over it. Who cares?
Story, Connie. Damn it.
It's still just amazing to me that we've got tens of thousands of fans here.
Yes.
Who are in nosebleed seats. God, just show them.
But here's what I'll say, that I think the art of storytelling, that the protagonist antagonist simplicity storyline, had I not been so adamant and over the top, no, don't do it, you can't see that, no, it's like, I want all you people out there to sit down and shut up. Well, those people stand up. They had been like deathly quiet in the arena. Nobody's sitting down. I mean, everybody's sitting down and everybody's shutting up. And the right guy says at the right time, I want everybody to sit down and shut up, which is exactly what they're doing. But what do the people do? They stand up and say, hell no, we ain't doing that. It's psychology 101. But off to the races we went in SummerSlam 99.
Overall, you're happy with the match?
Yes, because, again, when I watched that back, and me and D'Lo doing the false finishes and the sit-out power bomb and some action outside the ring, and just the different, and we knew that, what was the match? Less than 10 minutes, but we had a relatively short amount of time. First match, you don't need to put on the gas, don't need to put on the brakes. You don't need to sit in a rest hold or work a hold for any extended period of time. Just keep moving, give them good false finishes. And we knew we were going. Mark Henry and JR had alluded to that. I want to say he was maybe injured or they wanted him to drop a few pounds. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but Mark looked great. And again, I always knew that I could be a conduit to whether it was Mark Henry or whatever it may be, Southern Justice, Tennessee Lee, having multiple people around me, I think, or me around others, however you want to put it, I could be a glue to get people in the right positions and something that I learned from my formative years, but getting Mark involved and where we were going with it, it was good. So I was, I look back on my SummerSlam career because this is SummerSlam season.
You're Mr. SummerSlam, by the way.
I'm not Mr. SummerSlam, but I'm pretty happy with the SummerSlams that I appeared in.
Yeah, you're Mr. SummerSlam. Let's get, that might even be a t-shirt over at boxofgimmicks.com by now. I don't know that we can sell it, but we'll find a way. Send us a cease and desist, by God. I need a few more.
There you go.
So this is a big moment. It's one of the biggest SummerSlams in history. Huge pay-per-view. I mean, Meat's beating you on shotgun, but you're becoming both European and Intercontinental champion at the same damn time, which is yet another thing that you've shared with Kurt Angle. You, Kurt Angle, and D'Lo Brown, I think, are the only guys to do that, right? Do I have that right?
How about that?
So that's a trio.
I did see that online. Maybe last year, maybe the year before that. Me and Kurt have that
distinction.
Yes. I wonder who he won his. I don't know.
I don't think you guys have anything else in common either.
Nope, nothing.
Mark Henry turning here. This is a Vince Russo idea, right? I mean, he loves the idea of the big surprise, the big turn. They'll never see it coming, bro. He likes the swerve, right?
Of course, the swerve and the execution of this swerve by Mark and D'Lo and Tim White. My man Tim White was refereeing. Is done well. It was done well. The people did not call it. He came in the ring and pulled the guitar out of my hands. And, everybody said, all right, Jarrett's getting it, because we had also already set it up with Deborah. I don't say turning on me, but siding with D'Lo. The cards were laid out well. And you can see when Mark cracks D'Lo with the guitar from behind and just obliterates it. It was there's all kind of different pops if you have the right ear for it, but it was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. It was a surprise. Like, damn, Mark, it worked well.
It worked so well that the next night you literally just gifted the European title to D'Lo Brown.
How about that?
Hey, thanks for turning on D'Lo. I just wanted my IC back. Nobody ever cared about this belt. Here you go. You're the European champion now.
Maybe could have been done a little bit different.
I dug it. But I mean, still, you get to have that little feather in your cap that you're a European champion, if only for a day.
There you go. And technically, because I don't know if Jack Tunney would sanction me actually gifting a belt. I think he would say no, Jarrett, by rule, page 74, right, section 202, he would have to say, Jeff, you're still the the European champion. So technically, if you've never gotten beat for that title, had I been booked in a European championship match, I certainly would have accepted it. You can go on history. I've never turned down ever a championship challenge or a rematch or anything like that. So am I still the European champion?
You know what? I think we could make that argument that you are still. Now at this point, you're the longest reigning European champion in history.
That's what I'm saying. Another feather in my cap. Let's go to Wrestle Court, get JBL.
Mm-hmm.
Will you be like my.
I'd be glad to lead this charge for you. There is a guy running around calling himself the Buttercream Dream and cutting promos on Cameo with the European title. But I think that's a bootleg belt, and that makes him a bootleg champion. So I think you are the uncrowned. Everybody knows it, you know.
Bootleg Buttercream. What'd you call him?
He's the Buttercream Dream.
Okay.
And he's a hillbilly from Chickamauga, Georgia.
I love it.
Stand-up comedian friend Corey Ryan Forrester, and he's been cutting promos as the Buttercream Dream for the last year and a half or so during the pandemic. On Cameo in character with a bootleg European belt, but he's a bootleg champion. You see, you're the real European champion.
Is Matt Cardona the real face of Game Changer Wrestling?
Of course, he's the face of the Game Changer universe. Everybody knows that.
Okay. We just
everybody knows that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, you pissed on the business here. You know, when you just give the belt to Mark Henry, you didn't make him beat you for it or anything like that. Meltzer would say, quote, I saw Sunshine and Precious turn Chris Adams and Jimmy Garvin into big draws, and Jarrett must remember it as well. Maybe someday they'll find an angle that gets this guy over. I think they're talking about Mark Henry, but they may have been talking about you. I don't know.
I took that as a shot at me, my fiction writer friend.
Okay.
But what's crazy, not even to go in that rabbit hole. It's his audience. It's his newsletter. And he knows better than anyone how to serve up his audience.
Well, right after this SummerSlam show, China's going to sign a contract for the Intercontinental Championship, and we're off to the races, but that's a story for another day. It is interesting to think, what if, you know, sometimes we like to say, what if here on the show?
Lots of what ifs.
What if you had not beaten D'Lo Brown here and he retained? Would D'Lo have wound up wrestling China at the next pay-per-view for the Intercontinental title? And if that would have happened, would you have jumped ship and gotten a paltry sum from the WWE and perhaps not blackballed yourself forever and ever from Vince McMahon's loving embrace?
Well, for 19 years.
Yes.
It's 19 years, so not forever. So, but no, I do not think there would have been an attraction for D'Lo to wrestle China. I don't really see that playing out. Maybe wrong. I may be way off, but the puppy storyline and Miss Kitty and the Good Housekeeping and that whole build up to it, and me figure four and Ben Stiller, but also Cindy Margolis and the makeup people and anybody in sight, that whole build up was good TV in the direction it was headed. I don't think D'Lo China would have been that attraction.
I love that you can't help but pat yourself on the back that it's better that it was you and not D'Lo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, it was way better because you had been hitting chicks with guitars and putting ladies in figure fours. It was way better.
For God's sake.
It was absurd and it was great, but it is fun to think about what if. I mean, you would have had an opportunity to hold Vince up. He would have said, "Goddamn, pal, you were working Val Venus. Who cares? Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah. Well, when you take it to that next layer about WCW and what you're just saying, and he took the company public, and would I've I don't know that all those kinds of how would that have worked its way out?
Fascinating to wonder what if. Ringside Rant writes, the chemistry you and D'Lo had was great. With that being said, did you guys talk about the match beforehand or did you call it in the ring? That's interesting because we know these days everything is kind of discussed ahead of time, but this is 20 something years ago. Were you still talking it all the way through, or is it mostly just the finish and the number of minutes?
I think you referenced earlier that how many live event matches me and D'Lo had. I mean, like a pretty good run, right?
A substantial amount of matches. So you probably just said, "Hey, let's do Kansas City," right?
Well, plug and play, and hey, this worked here. This worked. Always on pay-per-views, you try to sort of take the best of the best of the best from your live event matches and put it all into one, and then work into your finish. So I feel certain that would be the case here.
Lindsay says, "Did it ever get a little awkward with Deborah and her outfits? Was there awkwardness on your end or any backlash from your wife?"
Business is business. No, It was the story, you know, with when we've touched on a little bit here, you had Val Venus, a porn star, and Godfather, a pimp, and, you know, these degeneration guys that are peeing in my boots, and the Ministry of Darkness. How
hard was it to go to church when you were home on a random Sunday and those other parents know, wait a minute, this heathen is walking in here making all this money, living in the big house on the lake, and making our kids want to watch suck it shows with show your tit chance and all this, and a porn star and a pimp. And here he is talking about scripture. That's a hard thing to reconcile for normal folks, I'm sure.
So, Conrad, can I just get a little transparent here?
You had to be getting the side eye, right?
Oh, I got more than a side eye.
I bet.
A church that I used to attend, there was some brushback, and I was gone a lot of Sundays.
Of course, you're making town Saturday night somewhere.
Yes, but my wife was there just about every Sunday.
Of course.
And so the chatter would ebb and flow, but there was a stretch. I don't want to say anyway. I'd made it to a couple of Sundays being in town and everything, and I'd gotten a few of those side eyes and a couple of questionable comments and that kind of stuff. And then I can't remember if the preacher asked to talk to me or if I asked to talk to the preacher. I want to say he wanted to have a discussion about it because he had others. And to put this in context, Conrad, it's not easy to people listening to the show of how I don't want to make it too dramatic or over dramatize it, but also I don't want to undersell it. But it was a point of discussion. Would you call it a side eye? That's probably the best way to say it.
Yeah.
So I had that multiple times. So finally, he asked to speak, and there was some, can you tell me a little bit about this? And hey, I don't watch wrestling. And I just went full bore and laid it out to him. But I can vividly remember saying, so hold on a minute. What I'm doing is on television, although it may be getting out of bounds, but it is a scripted form of entertainment. But we have people that come in this church that may be going off some side rails here and there as well. So are you having those same kind of conversations? Because this is my fictitious life, and there's some real stuff going on here. Is it the same level of playing field? And I have to tip my hat to that preacher, and he heard it out and appreciated me coming in and having the candid discussion. I think the old adage that I continue to harp on when you ever ask me to, communication is the only solution. The only grounds to create a solution is to communicate about it. And we communicated, and I openly communicated and told him how I thought. He communicated, and I'm not saying we had a resolution, but he had so much better understanding. And I'm going to go as far as say appreciation for, okay, this is scripted, maybe a little off the roads, but it's an R-rated movie. We weren't doing anything on Monday Night Raw that wasn't seen in any movie theaters at any time by minors going to R-rated movies. So, but it was funny you bring that up, that you spontaneously said, hey, Double J, how was it going to church back in the Attitude Era?
The things we do for this wrestling business.
How about it?
Jeremy Priest, a top guy over at adfreeshows.com. What a transition that was from that question. Says, we always hear the first match on any show sets the pace. In your opinion, how much pressure do you feel being the first match? Not just a pay-per-view, but any show. And, sometimes guys, we hear this industry jargon and we take it too far and we say, oh, he's jerking the curtain. And maybe once upon a time, there was some truth to that. But in this more modern era of wrestling, the first match has to set a tone and a pace, and because it could kill a crowd. So you want to make sure that, hey, we're starting hot and we're giving them what they want, and we're sort of feeding the beast and get this momentum going, because a crowd a lot of times can make or break a show. It can take, an average show to a good show and a good show to a great show. But it can also work against you. So from a performer standpoint, put your wrestling hat on for a minute, your in-ring wrestler hat on. Is there a tremendous pressure to be the first match?
Pressure may not be accurate, but I was taught this from my father, Jerry Lawler, my grandmother, her belief in it. And she wasn't a booker or a wrestler or anything like that. But the most important match on the card is the main event. The last thing they see when they walk out of the arena, what are they talking about? How do they feel inside emotionally? Was it well invested? Did they have, are they mad for the right reasons? All that kind of stuff as far as last match. The second to most important match is the first. And I believe when I was creative, I believe as a performer, I believe as a fan, I was born, I was taught at a very young age, start the show on time. Don't penalize the people that got to the building on time. The people who are standing outside and there's a ticket line a mile long, tell them to get there early next time. Don't penalize the people who got there and got in their seat, got their popcorns, got their Cokes. But anyway, I think the first match is super important. I mean, whether it's a live event or a pay-per-view, no matter what card, the first match, you just cannot, I don't think you can really describe, because it sets the tone. It really does set the tone from, and I'm talking getting really down and dirty here. The people in the truck, if everything hits, the music cue, the entrance, the first entrance is shot right. It's so important. And the guys got to hit their times. You don't want to go under or over. So you're immediately trying to scramble either way on that. So yeah, I think there is a tremendous amount, if you'll use the word pressure, but you're putting a lot of confidence in whoever you put on first. And if you think it's a throwaway match, you're headed toward the graveyard of promoters. I'll say that.
Ben wants to know, not that I'm complaining, but whose idea was it for Deborah to come out to the ring in nothing but a tuxedo jacket and a bikini? And hypothetically, how many times did he say bro when he pitched it to her? So old Ben believes this was Russo's idea.
I'm sure he wasn't against it. But to my knowledge, it was Deborah's idea.
Jason says a lot of wrestling history in the state of Minnesota. Other than this pay-per-view, does Jeff have any memories in Minnesota?
Oh, wow. Used to fly into International Falls and go fishing up into Canada. What fascinated me right as I was breaking in a little bit before that, and I'm sure you've heard these stories, Conrad, but the Nasty Boys, trade by Brad Ranigans, but you sort of hear this nucleus of guys from the Road Warriors to Rick Rude, to Kurt Hennig, to Nord. I know I'm going to, Darso, Wayne Bloom,
Flair was up there.
Oh, okay. Well, if we're going to go back a generation, but that early 80s sort of, that's to me, it's still, a lot of guys relocated to Florida, but they were from all over the country. But like one city produced some big, the Guerrero family, lots of talent came out of that one family, the Von Erich family, the Hart family. But as far as a geographical city that produced big, John Laurinaitis, Joe Laurinaitis. You think about all the talent out of Minneapolis, pretty amazing. Super Clash 3 with Vern Gagne and obviously his son Greg, but my dad worked with Vern, and our buddy Eric Bischoff cut his teeth there. Lots of fond memories, Mall of America and First Nitro. I got all kind of random memories, but flying up there in the summers to go fishing in Lake LaCroix, we'd fly into International Falls and then take a seaplane over. The land of 10,000 lakes. Cool state, very cool state.
Michael wants to know, what was the difference in working with Deborah in WCW versus here in the WWF? More cleavage.
The storyline with the Four Horsemen and Mongo literally just breaking in, going from a color commentator into that role. Obviously it was she came out in pageant dresses and the two different on-screen characters for sure. But Deborah didn't take bumps, didn't really have promo skills. Yeah. There wasn't, other than what she wore, there wasn't a lot of diversity in her character, if you will. But Mongo in that storyline and the Four Horsemen and Mean Gene, I can remember Mean Gene doing the promos in WCW and narrating that, and me and Flair. That never did get to play out. I wish Kevin Sullivan would have got his way more, but we were headed in that direction that just didn't ever play out.
One last one from Martin. What was it like working with Tim White? Why was he called the Fighting Irishman? I had the pleasure of meeting him while he looked after talent at an Access, and he was just so nice when we briefly spoke.
Never heard him being referred to as the Fighting Irishman. Tim is the kindest, nicest guy. When I first met Tim, 92, 3, 4, WWF era, Tim White, and he's in the Andre documentary. Tim's was a referee, good buddies with Arnie Skolin. But Tim, Andre, they were buddies, but I don't want to say he took care of Andre. Andre can take care of himself, but he did travel with Andre, drank with Andre, ran up and down the roads with Andre. So Tim always had fascinating stories. Also, he's from Providence. He had a nice little tavern up there that the guys used to frequent. Tim always notorious for selling raffle tickets. Miraculously, he would sell them at every TV and say, "Hey, we're going to have a drawing." But for some odd reason, nobody that I know, to my knowledge, ever won that raffle. It was just a con job from Tim White. No, just kidding. But no, Tim's a great man, great guy. I got to see him in Florida. I don't know. Last time I was down there 4 or 5 months ago. At the beginning of the year, that's where I saw him at the Raw Legends. Good dude, man. My man, Tim White. We traveled. We went overseas a bunch together. We traveled some together. Oh, Timmy White, but never heard him referred to as the Fighting Irishman. He is an Irishman, but never put fighting and Tim in the same sentence.
Next week, we're going to be fighting to get a good story out of Hard Justice 2006. And when I first floated this one past you, you said, "Oh, I got a story." So let's run through what we're going to be talking about. It went down August 13th, 2006. So we just passed the 15-year anniversary. We had Ron Killings defeating A1. We had Sanjay Dutt teaming with Cassidy Riley to beat Jimmy Jacobs and El Diablo. We had Johnny Devine in a losing effort to Eric Young. Chris Sabin is going to defeat Alex Shelley, who had Kevin Nash and Johnny Devine with him. Abyss with Father James Mitchell is going to defeat Brother Runt, aka Spike Dudley. Samoa Joe will defeat Rhino and Monty Brown in a Falls Count Anywhere match. We've got Gail Kim defending, or she's not defending a title, but she is going to be in singles action here. Sin Shi, who we know as Low Key, is going to be taking on Petey Williams and Jay Lethal in a 3-way dance for the TNA X Division Championship. We've got AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels teaming up to take on the Latin American Exchange, which is Homicide and Hernandez. Conan is in their corner.
LAX.
And then in the main event, we've got Sting challenging Jeff Jarrett for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Jeff has Scott Steiner in his corner. Christian Cage is in Sting's corner. Boy, those are some names that are really relevant right now. Hard Justice 2006. When I first floated this as a hypothetical topic, you said, "Ooh, I got good stories on that one." And you've told me nothing else. What might we be talking about next week as we cover this pay-per-view?
Samoa Joe is, we'll sort of dive into his, he was rolling along. Let's say that. Christian, you sort of laid out the players. Who was AJ's opponent? Him and Daniels, right?
Yeah, they're teaming up against LAX.
And Gail wrestled who?
Let me open the tab again here.
But anyway, Gail Kim. Here we go. What?
It tickles me that you always ask a sidebar question as if I was there or I was the promoter.
But you're the one with the damn notes over there.
Yeah, but I closed them out. I thought we were done. I thought you had a good story, not recapping everything I just fucking said. Someone named Sorelda. I don't know who that is.
Okay. Anyway, the Knockouts division.
No. We got to talk about Sorelda now because I buried her and I didn't want to bury her, which is why I didn't say her name earlier because I was like, I probably don't know how to say her name right. Her real name is Jamie, though. Do you remember Sorelda?
Sorelda? Wait, I just know that the Knockouts division was just getting started. It's Sarah Del Rey.
No, it's not.
No, I'm kidding.
Like, I know her. No, it's not.
I know. Sorelda.
She took part in the gut check challenge that you guys did in 2004 in Atlanta.
Okay.
So she was one of your homegrown talents that you home grew and then forgot about.
Okay. No, but me and Sting, there's the formation of things. This is August of 2006, correct?
Yes.
Yes. We're just getting cranking. We'll get into it next week.
Okay. Listen next week, I guess. It's My World with Jeff Jarrett talking about Hard Justice 2006.
Christian Cage. How long had he been with us at this point?
Would you have ever guessed Sting would be challenging you and Christian Cage in his corner? Fast forward 15 years later, and they're both still TV wrestlers.
Bingo.
It's unbelievable when you think about it.
Yeah, it's cool.
It is cool. And we'll be back next week right here. Oh, by the way, we should mention, we still got that one little fun thing we're doing on adfreeshows.com that I teased last week. We haven't pulled the trigger on, but I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. How much heat are you going to catch about that, do you think?
What are you talking about? Get heat? I'm a walking, talking heat or billboard. It won't be the first time. Heat for anything. You name it.
Oh my goodness. Stay tuned, boys and girls. A lot of fun stuff coming your way. We're going to talk about later this fall, Bound for Glory 06, the Austin 316 promo that got a ton of heat that we sort of tabled today. The time that TNA was flirting with Hulk Hogan. We'll also be talking about David Arquette, selling the Panda Energy, and so much more. It's going to be a fun fall here on My World, boys and girls. And Jeff has something up his sleeve next week. I have no idea what it is. But I'll be here with bated breath and hope you will be too. You get all these shows early and ad free over at adfreeshows.com. And we've got a little surprise worked out for ad free that, will be quoted everywhere. Let me just say that. I don't know how we're putting it together, but I know it's happening, and we'll be back next week with a little hard justice action as we get back on that TNA discussion from 2006 right here on My World.
Peace.
SaveWithConrad.com.
Mark Taggart from Rantoul, Illinois. My wife started the process with one of the big major corporations, and things were going very badly. And finally, I just stopped and said, hey, listen, I've been listening to the ads for years. Let's go with Save with Conrad and see what we can have happen. We were trying to free up a little space so we could spend down some debt and do some home improvements. We saved quite a bit, and in the long run, we're going to do a lot better with Save with Conrad than we would have anywhere else. It was absolutely beautiful. You know, like Larry and Francis were they were the greatest. Not only were they professional, knew what they were talking about, they were friendly, and they cared about the job they were doing, which was so important to me. I would absolutely recommend Save with Conrad to anybody. Hi, this is Mark Taggart from Rantoul, Illinois, and I wanted to do some home improvements and spend down a little debt, and I got hold of Save with Conrad, and we did incredibly.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender.
SaveWithConrad.com.